Welcome back to the Loose Nut Printing channel, and in this video, as you can see, we might actually begin somewhere with this machine. There's a few small things we gotta do before we can actually get some plastic laid down. So let's get those small house-taking procedures done, and then let's try to get some plastic. So there's going to be two little things we're going to have to do. First one is in Moonraker's config, and we're going to have to add two lines of code here. First is going to be in brackets file underscore manager, and then underneath that we're going to add enable underscore object underscore process true, and this is going to be the start of enabling object exclusion. And simply put, that is going to be allowing the printer to cancel prints if you do multiple batch prints. It's going to be needing a webcam and stuff. It's going to be something I work through later on. So the next part of it we're going to be adding is in the printer config itself, and that's simply in brackets exclude object. And with that, we simply are now done adding the exclude object stuff for now. The next big thing is we're going to add a chunk of G code. I got this off of Clipper's example GitHub. There's a few things we're going to need to change in here. This is essentially what would be normally in your slicer with Marlin, but with Clipper we can actually have it in the printer config and be able to change it as we need instead of in the slicer, which is nice. So there's going to be a few things I'm going to take out here. For example, I'm going to remove the G1 codes for moving the nozzle, because I'm going to park my nozzle at the center rear of my printer while it's heating up, just to allow it to ooze and stuff off the bed or end of the bed. So I'm just going to simply add G21 or G1 X1 156 Y311, and I'm going to move the nozzle up 5 mil, so then I got some clearance on my bed while it goes to the rear of the printer. And now with that change, we're going to now move the print head to 00, since I'm not too certain which direction it's going to move, so I'm going to simply do that. But I am certain how much to move the nozzle back, so I'm going to just move it back 1 mil since I'm printing at 0.5. So now with that done, we can set up our slicer for our printer. I'm going to be using Persia for this, so I'm going to tell it I got a boron. I'm going to use the V1 since it looks like the V1's the right Z and everything movement, so I'm going to do that. So I'm just telling it it's a custom printer, calling it a legacy, telling it the firmware, now giving it the size of the bed. I first went with the actual size the physical plate is, but went smart, shrunk it a little bit. Went with 415 for the complete height, so it gives me roughly about 410 mil height with subtracting the Z probe. And then basically everything else here is just nothing really needs to be changed. Just continue flipping through until you're done. And then with that done, we're now going to actually add the physical printer, since most slicers to my understanding can connect to them via the wireless. So I accidentally used the wrong host type there, but amazingly that didn't actually matter. So but it probably would once you started trying to upload, but whatever. We got it set up. Now we're going to change a couple of small things. So got to change the extruder to 0.5. I asked on the Voron community page to see what they ran, and that seems like a common and now here we're going to set up a little bit of G code. Don't have to do much. We're just simply telling it the hot end in bed here to be at 0 degrees, and this is where we're going to call in our G code that's in our printer config. So we're just telling it start print, so then when it sees that, it will go to that G code and do everything we set up. And then we're just going to tell it the extruder temp first layer is what the slicer program is asking for, and that's the same thing for the bed. And then for the end G code, all we have to put here is end print, and then it will start that sequence of G code that we have in the printer config. And then the only other thing we need to add here is output file, and this is going to be a part of the exclude object, something for later on, but not for now. And I used the first layer test just to make sure that we could upload to the printer, and look at that, we're able to upload. Perfect. So I remembered that there was one thing I didn't add to the printer config, or the start print G code, was the load the bed mesh. So before trying to do a test print, I'm going to add that to the G code, so then it will pull the bed mesh that I have saved. So now with that simply added to the G code, we can go try to run the first layer print, and it failed pretty quickly out of the door just because I accidentally misspelled my bed mesh profile. So simply added that to the bed mesh, then went to try again, and some reason it was giving me out of range. That took me a second to figure out. Simply enough, I had to restart the printer, and that cleared it. So next thing I did before even trying another print, I added a couple of more things to the G code. One of the things that I added to the G code was I added Z tilt, so then my lead screws would be parallel. I also added another line here to move my probe a little bit higher after it finished doing the Z tilt. And the one thing I did here that I wouldn't recommend is removing the G91 at the end of your print, because you'll get this result here, which is not a good thing to happen, ramming your nozzle into your print. So leave G91 alone in the end of your end print. So the next thing we're going to change is where the tool head parks. First we're going to change X to 156, and I realized after doing this it doesn't actually know where that would be too excessive a move. So I did come back and change that later on. Next thing I'm going to add in is telling it to move the tool head away from the print surface of 25, and yet again that's probably a little excessive, and I did add G91 back in eventually. So with everything figured out and kosher and how it should be, we can finally get a good first print going down. So we're simply going to just take our slicer and slice up our Cali Dragon, because that was the last thing we printed on the FL Sun Cube before we tore it down. So now with that uploaded, we can start the print and let everything heat up to the point of where it's ready to play. So we're just going to cut over to the printer doing its little dance before it starts to do its print. You can see me in the back there pulling a little bit of the ooze out, but well, days finally come. It's finally doing something. It's actually printing. A long few months of waiting to see this happening, but it finally is happening. There's still a lot more to go to do with this printer, but at least now we can see that it was worth the time and energy that we put into it. And it's one of those things, you know, mid build motivation, being able to actually see it move and do everything. The next thing on the radar to be able to do is probably going to be pressure advance and doing speed advance. I can't even recall the name at the current moment, but going to be needing to get a accelerometer for doing the one tuning. And it's one of those things, it's not worth doing the pressure advance until I get the accelerometer, because you're going to have to redo the pressure advance when you do the speed. So at least we can say it for sure prints, but that's all we have for this week, guys. It's been one hectic video, a little bit of oopsies here and there, but in the end we got ourselves a dragon. It's nice to see, like I said, and a long time coming. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Leave a comment and a like. I'll catch you again next time. Thanks for watching, and have a good one, folks. Actually, before I let you go, I just thought to show this. This is the little dragon that we printed when it was still an FL Sun Cube. You can see some lines and everything. And this is the one we just printed. You can see it's a little textured almost. So I think input shaper and a few other things will fix that. But thanks again, guys. See you later.